Israelis and some in the Iranian diaspora celebrated when the first blow in the Third Gulf War was struck early on Saturday morning. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and dozens of other military and political leaders were wiped out. Iran had just made what the Omani foreign minister described as a substantial offer in the talks with the Americans on their uranium enrichment program. They had offered to dilute their stock of highly enriched uranium so that it could no longer be used as bomb-grade material. Donald Trump responded with war. In fact, the talks had been a sham all along. The CIA had been tracking Khamenei's movements for months, and all they were waiting for was a meeting when the top leadership would be gathered in his compound. It took place on Saturday, so that is when the war started. Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu then both spoke almost from the same script, appealing to Iranians to come out onto the streets and bring their regime down. It didn't happen. Iranians did take to the streets, but they did so largely as mourners. There were neighborhoods of Tehran where people cheered from their balconies, but there were screams from others too, and plenty who did neither but feared what was to come. From the first moments of the war, it was clear that this was about regime change, not uranium and not the missiles. Regime change was the very thing that Trump and the MAGA movement campaigned against, both as a candidate and as a president. Trump vowed in a speech in New Hampshire 3 years ago to demolish the deep state, those horrible warmongers, those stupid people, he said. Then, as president, he used a speech in Riyadh to say that the so-called nation builders had wrecked far more nations than they had built. Well, now he has joined the ranks of those stupid people. He is the president who is wrecking Iran, and he's hard put to say why. Was it the nukes? Was it help for the protesters who were mown down in their thousands in January? Was it their ballistic missiles? On Monday, his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, added a fifth reason. He claimed that the US attacked because it knew Israel was poised to, and if that happened, the US forces would bear the brunt of the retaliation. Was Rubio admitting that this commander-in-chief had been led by the nose by Netanyahu into a third Gulf War? Trump tried to row back on that, but the truth is, he has been led by the nose. Netanyahu has been far more consistent. He's been planning for this day for the best part of 47 years. In his declaration of war, the Israeli premier pointedly addressed the Iranians by their ethnicities, not their nationality. He called them Persians, Kurds, Azeris, Balochs, Abkhaz. The bombs falling spoke to the same strategy. They targeted all members of the political elite, reformists, leftists, past presidents, as well as the principalists. This is not nation building, it's the dismantling of a nation. The purpose of Israel's war is to disable Iran as a regional power and turn it into a weak, pliant confederation of ethnic cantons. This is what he's been doing in Syria by feigning a sudden interest in the Druze and the Kurds. And that is why we have been seeing his pilots of the free world, he called them, bombing a school and massacring 180 people, most of them young boys and girls. And this is why Israel is now bombing Iranian hospitals. Israel is setting about dismantling the cities of Iran in the same way as it did Gaza and southern Lebanon. As a consequence, the casualties of this so-called pinpoint bombing have soared to more than 750 deaths in just 4 days. The destruction of Iran as a regional power is part of a bigger plan that would underpin two words increasingly on the lips of Israeli politicians: Greater Israel. This is a dream that Zionists of many hues have harbored for decades, that the modern state of Israel will one day run from the Nile to the Euphrates. It is no coincidence that weeks before this attack, the US ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, said to Tucker Carlson that it would be fine if Israel took all the land from the Nile to the Euphrates. And no coincidence that Israel's opposition leader, Yair Lapid, immediately agreed. It's also no coincidence that shortly before launching this war, Netanyahu rolled out the red carpet for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. India is already producing weapons for Israel, and Modi has promised to allow 50,000 more Indian citizens to work in Israel to replace Palestinian labor force. With support from India in place, Israel would become less dependent on funding, arms, and political support from Washington. The second point of this war is its timing. Netanyahu calculates that Israel will never again have a US president as easy to manipulate as Trump. No Republican or Democrat that comes after him will be as friendly. The genocide in Gaza has seen to that. This is thus the time not just to crush the Islamic Republic, but to fill the vacuum this creates to expand Israel's military and high-tech control over the region as a whole. An independent Iran is the only obstacle to Netanyahu realizing his project of establishing a new regional alliance, his so-called hexagon of states, with India to the east and Somaliland to the south. The Islamic Republic is now fighting for its life. Its leadership, so often dubbed fundamentalist, has in reality been too cautious. It has realized too late in the day that the war of annihilation Israel has been waging in Gaza, Lebanon and Syria would arrive on its doorstep too. It negotiated with Trump, and each time the US treated the talks as cover for a military decapitation campaign. Iran made a fatal mistake on October the 7th when Hamas attacked southern Israel. Iran and Hezbollah rejected pleas by Hamas to start a second front on Israel's northern borders. The mistake was to listen to messaging from Joe Biden's administration not to get involved in a regional war, in return for being allowed to sell more oil under the table. Thus, each component of the resistance of an occupied Palestine allowed themselves to be picked off one by one at Israel's timing and choice. Belatedly, Iran has learned this lesson and is now fighting a very different campaign to the one it fought when it was attacked for 12 days last year. Today, Iran's targets are the US diplomatic and military installations in the Gulf and its allies. Iran wants to make the international costs of attacking it as high as possible. So, within a matter of 24 hours, Iran had closed the Strait of Hormuz, pounded Dubai, halted Saudi Arabia's biggest oil refinery, and Doha's production and export of liquefied natural gas. Ships at the mouth of the Gulf are aflame. The Revolutionary Guards have just announced that they have control over Hormuz. Most flights in the region have been suspended. Oil and gas prices have surged. Iranian drones have also targeted a French military base in Abu Dhabi, and Hezbollah expanded the war to Cyprus by using its drones to hit the British Royal Air Force base at Akrotiri in Cyprus. Iran seeks to internationalize Trump's attack by making it as expensive as possible for the global economy. After heavy and sustained war, the Gulf states have so far at least avoided escalation. For months, Saudi Arabia had warned Trump of what would happen if he attacked Iran. Trump brushed off their concerns, and now they are paying a heavy price. Riyadh has good reasons for caution. It has maintained a ceasefire with the Houthis in northern Yemen, and they have yet to get involved. There are two main scenarios now for Iran. Either this attack will break them and engineer a total collapse, or the regime under a new Ayatollah and new military leader will retain control and exhaust America and Israel's and the Gulf's stock of air defense missiles, and that then will lead to a ceasefire. The killing of Khamenei during Ramadan could in fact be the spark that rejuvenates the Iranian revolution, giving it new purpose. This in itself would constitute victory, because Iran knows that the weak link in this war is Trump himself. If Iran collapses, then we can be sure of devastating consequences across the Gulf. Regime collapse and the resulting chaos or civil war has the capacity to send millions of refugees westwards. Nor will Netanyahu's war have necessarily ended if Iran collapses. Israel is betting on the weakness of the Arab states to defend themselves, and seeks to weaken them further. For it is only in the landscape of a weakened neighborhood that Israel can redraw the map of the Middle East and institute a new Sykes-Picot. Then it is only a matter of time before Netanyahu declares Turkey to be Israel's next Amalek. This is a bleak scenario, but an all too realistic one. The future map of the Middle East is at stake in this war, and no Arab state can afford the luxury of sitting this one out.